Well, President Obama spoke to the United Nations in New York this morning, walking a very fine line between praising the rise of democracy and self-government throughout the Arab world, while also arguing it is not quite time yet for the Palestinians to have their own country. At least not the way the Palestinian leadership is trying to get it, that is by asking for formal recognition from the UN Security Council.
Peace will not come through statements and resolutions at the United Nations. If it were that easy, it would have been accomplished by now. Ultimately, it is the Israelis and the Palestinians who must live side by side.
The president trying to head off a diplomatic showdown, saying the only way for the Palestinians to win that formal statehood is through negotiations with Israel. It is complicated. It's been a frankly disappointing process, but the president is saying, frankly, it's all we have. So let's talk about it. Nihad Awad is co-founder and national director of the Council on American-Islamic Relations, and Rabbi Stuart Weinblatt is here as well. Among other things, he serves as the Director of Israel Policy and Advocacy for the Rabbinical Assembly. I want to thank you both for coming in now. Rabbi Weinblatt, I'll start with you. Do you see any inherent contradiction in the president going to the UN and saying, hey, it's great there's democracy in Egypt and Tunisia and these other places, but the Palestinians have to wait?
The real question is how are the Palestinians going to be able to achieve what their goal is? And the only way that can happen is by face-to-face negotiations with Israel. So I don't think it's a contradiction at all.
All right. The president says, Mr. Awad, that there's no shortcut to making this happen, that it has to happen through negotiations. So what's going on here?
Well, it has been a long cut over the years. So waiting for 60 years and so many years and decades of negotiations led to nothing. The Palestinians are losing their lives, their land every day. Israel's borders are expanding.
So you're saying they're desperate. This is a desperation move.
You know what? George Washington and the Americans did not negotiate the Declaration of Independence with the British. When they decided that they have the right to be independent, they decided. They did not wait for the world. Although the Palestinians have waited more than 6 decades. So it's time for them to have their own independent state like every nation in the world.
Well, I think you would agree that it is time, but it has to come through negotiations. Part of the reason there aren't negotiations right now is that President Netanyahu has continued to expand settlements in the region, and that the Palestinians say they won't sit down as long as that's going on.
The reason why there aren't negotiations is quite simply because the Palestinians have chosen not to come to negotiations. I would agree with what you said, Nihad, if over these 60 years there weren't any attempts at negotiations, but constantly Israel has sat down with the Oslo Accords. We had opportunities with Prime Minister Barak, Prime Minister Sharon, even Prime Minister Omer and Prime Minister Netanyahu have all said, and many instances they've been there and have been willing to give up land, create something that never existed before, and that is a Palestinian state. The real question is, why is it the Palestinians can't say yes? That's, to me, the issue.
Well, they have said yes. They have recognized the state of Israel. They negotiated, but negotiations is not for the sake of negotiations. Negotiations should be to live in dignity, to live in one's own state, and this is not has happened. So far, unfortunately, maybe you believe in some of the Israeli leadership, but I think given up hope even on the current Israeli leadership. Yeah. One second, I think Thomas Friedman, for the first time, he's been fed up with the Israeli leadership, and they said it's time for the Israeli leadership to realize the change around the world, that these Palestinian people, they deserve their state, and they have captured the support of the world.
This is a very complicated argument, and you two obviously aren't going to resolve it today, but one of the things the president said was, you have to learn to walk in each other's shoes here.
Right.
Is enough of that going on for a deal to be made?
I would say the following. In Israel today, there is such a desire and a longing for peace. Israel was, when Sadat came, gave 2/3 of its landmass away in the Sinai. Israel has withdrawn from the Gaza Strip, has withdrawn from Lebanon, has taken down checkpoints, has done so much to show its interest in peace, and has done so much to show that it wants to live with the Palestinians. The question really is, what have the Palestinians done? I don't think there's been very much that's been done. There still is incitement, there still is hatred, there still is things that are taught which don't prepare the people for peace. That, to me, is the real question.
The President Obama disagrees. He believes, and I believe he's backing away from his position, unfortunately, the expansion, the growth of these settlements at the expense
of... So come to the peace table and discuss that. If that's the issue, come to the table and discuss it.
They have, but you do know, and I do know, that unfortunately the United States has taken unilateral support for Israel at the expense of the Palestinians because of the pro-Israel community's pressure on the United States
government. No, it's because it's
government.
the right position, that's why.
No, I think it's wrong. And even President Obama himself, cautioned the Israeli leadership not to expand settlements, and they did not listen.
And for
All
10
right,
months,
gentlemen,
10 months there was a
They
settlement.
embarrassed.
There was a settlement freeze, and the
gentlemen,
Palestinians waited until
sadly,
2
gentlemen,
weeks
we're going to
before
have
they
to
came
wrap
to
because our time is up. I appreciate you both being here, and I realize that there's
I
a
thought we'd
lot
solve it
more
tonight.
to say. I wish we could solve it tonight. We'll see you next time. Anita and I will be back here